started.
Nimzomania from Canada. Okay, well let's play d4 here. And we'll allow the Nimzo. Oh, but he goes for the goes for the King's Indian setup. Let's see what this see how this works out. Yeah, this is a mainline King's Indian so far. Right here is where Chess Explained often plays h3 there. Bishop e2 is a classical. And then this move with the knight, it could come into the square c4 to attack the c5, to attack the e-pawn if I push on with d5. But it's not doing that right away, so let's castle here and see which... Black at some point has to choose between the c-pawn and the e-pawn, yeah. So he pushes forward. I could take... And not with the idea of trading queens, but with the idea of playing queen to c2 here. I guess he can play knight b5, knight b4, hitting the queen. But he doesn't do that. Maybe I want to prevent that. The e-pawn is now protected by the knight and the queen. And this move, c6, keeps my knight from going to d5, where I was thinking of putting it. So let's pin this knight and get a rook over here to get a rook to the d file. Since I haven't fianchetted, I can actually drop my bishop back this way and go to g3, putting some more pressure on the e-pawn. So now it's defended and he can take my bishop. True. Let's see. I can take the pawn. He takes the bishop. Do I have any good move with the knight? The idea is that when I move the knight away, I'm hitting his knight, but he can escape by taking my bishop. Knight here, there. It's attacking the rook. I guess I don't have a good move after that. Okay, but my idea was to put a rook on the d file. And then maybe play b4, b5, trying to harass this knight and undermine the c-pawn. There may be some weaknesses on the king side here for black, but I don't know how to exploit that immediately. Moves. The bishop is undefended once again, so I have to consider knight moves, but wherever the knight goes, he can just play bishop takes bishop. Unless I could go there and take something and protect the bishop, but it's not taking anything, so taking there, but then he takes the bishop and I've got rooks hanging and the knight hanging. So let's go on with this idea. Problem is the a-pawn is going to be undefended. His queen is actually hitting the a-pawn. So maybe I won't push on with b5. Maybe I should instead double on the d file. Rook here, and rook to d1. Okay, well the rooks are coming off then. Might not be a lot of life left in this position after that exchange, but how can I advance? Maybe knight here to... Yeah, knight to a4 to c5, and then back to d6, d3 rather. a4, c5, d3, and then I've got two pieces ganging up on the e-pawn. And I can get the queen attacking it as well. So he stops knight c5, yeah. So knight takes, pawn takes. It's not anything. Pawn to c5. And just kick it. Or take. Let's push on. This may be a useful square for me at some point. Now how do I best get there? I can come back this way and still get to d3. Okay, so he's played his knight up to, he's going to play his knight to d4 there, it looks like. So knight d3, knight d4, queen here. Let's go here. Just so the knight is actually pinned, although it takes the bishop with check. So I could move the bishop over here. Might be interesting. And can his knight really penetrate somewhere here? The knight can always drop back to e6 and defend his knight. So that's one thing he can always play. And let's see, by knight from d3 could go to e1 to f3. And I could think of taking this knight and winning the pawn. Although I won't win the pawn because our bishops are of opposite color and he's got it defended with his bishop. So that's maybe not a good idea. Maybe e3, knight takes, bishop takes, not defends his knight. Pawn to f4. Pawn takes, pawn takes, pawn takes. Still can't take the knight. Let's see, is there a way to gang up on f7 somehow from this square or this square? Okay, well now let's think about pawn to f4 supported by the knight. Pawn takes, knight takes. Might be a good square for that knight, but this pawn is dropping. But let's think. f4, pawn takes, pawn takes, pawn takes, knight takes. And no, his knight was not hanging because it was still defended by the bishop. But he goes back voluntarily. Okay, but he's stopping me from playing f4. Okay, where else? If I could get to this f5 square with the knight, that would also be good. So here to here to here to there. Okay, this is a bit dangerous. It's dangerous because I'm shutting in my bishop. Okay, the rook is coming in. I'm going with this knight journey that I mentioned. Now he's threatening to, he is threatening to take stuff. So I may have to go into the endgame here. Couldn't stay in position there. Okay, so he took with the knight. Now he does have check here and here, but I can just grab the knight. So let's continue this knight maneuver. Yeah, the check is a discovered attack on my queen, but my queen takes the knight and gets out of the attack. And his queen, yeah, cannot come in and check me anymore after that. It could penetrate to some square here, like D2 maybe. But he sacked a whole piece. It should not be good. Okay, queen there. That allows the queen to come in on some of these squares, like could come into A2 there, which would be a bit annoying. And if I defend A2, he can come into B3. Okay, right now B3 is covered, or would be an exchange. If he comes to A2, I play my knight here, my queen, I play my queen here to defend it, then he's got knight there check. So I have to play queen up to defend the pawn. And this, let's play the queen up now, just so I'm defending the pawn and I'm not
server announcement.
Leaving my queen somewhere where it's going to get forked by his knight. I still have knight to E3. Yeah, so the queen can come there and harass my king. This might be drawish with the opposite colored bishops, but it all depends on who can get an attack going. But right now his bishop is a bit blocked in by this e-pawn and by this pawn chain. Let's see, his knight could go after the a-pawn, but right now my knight is covering the square. Hard to say. Complicated. His knight, of course, could come into E2 and check my king. I was just planning to run with the king to H2. The bishop maneuvers. Don't know. But if I play something like knight F5 and he goes knight C2 after my pawn, then I can
check.
Okay, well was simple enough, I guess. Then that helps. Now his knight is not coming into C2. What I was saying is knight to F5 to D6 might be interesting. He's going after this pawn. He's supporting the knight. Maybe I need to play F4 here, because when I play F4, the bishop then will control this diagonal and his knight can't come in to these squares. F4, if he pushes, I take. If he takes, then I can take back. There's a check there. I can't take back. So this is a pawn sack, isn't it? This, yeah, so if he takes, I can take with the knight, and that defends the bishop. He has queen H4 check, picks up my bishop, which is loose here. Unfortunately, if I were to take this pawn, didn't see that till too late. Now I also have the idea of knight to D6 to gang up on F7. But I can't play it in this configuration because he's got the threat of F takes G3.
Check.
Check. Yeah, so the knight needs to be there to take back and to defend the bishop. So I've lost a pawn. His bishop is still not active, though. So there's still some hope for me. If this knight ever moves, my queen can come in. So he's not going to move the knight unless he's got a devastating attack, which is not yet there. Okay, so he's pinning the g-pawn, so knight knight f3 maybe is possible, but the queen and the bishop are guarding it right now. Okay, so what else? Knight here, check. Bishop there, check, rather. Knight here. Okay, knight here, knight takes, pawn takes, queen here, check. Queen interposes. Maybe I just need to get the bishop somewhere else. I didn't see that he had any way of intensifying the pressure on my pieces here, so maybe I'm wrong, but hopefully this is all holding together. Okay, so he goes back with the queen. He still has this idea of check on this square here, huh? Well, my idea was to defend with the bishop. To defend the bishop, rather. If the bishop is defended, then I don't have to worry about these checks. Well, I don't have to worry that they win material. I may have to worry about them. And if he takes the bishop with his knight, I'm hoping I'll have a good knight against a bad bishop scenario.
Check.
He can force a trade here. Knight here, check. Well, no, my king could go to f2, I guess. It's hard to say. So let's activate the knight then. Knight d2. There's knight to there's check here, which would chase me back. But there's no follow-up check. So knight here is an idea. Where does it go from there? That's a tough position. Knight e2 hits the queen, hits the rook, but then he can go, oh no, there's no check. Yeah, let's get rid of the knight. It seems to be the key piece here that's blocking up my access to his king.
Check.
And we'll see how it goes from here. So he's got a check there, and then the next check is there, or there's no check over this way. He gets that pawn. And I thought I could start going after stuff here. Holding on to the b pawn. Bishop to d7. Attacks the c6 pawn, and he can't easily defend it. And let's see, queen here, check, bishop there. Queen here, can't go here with another check. So checks don't seem to lead anywhere at the moment. Okay, what is that attacking? Anything? It's defending his e-pawn. Let's go here. Oh, maybe he's going to force a trade. That's the problem. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take, and I'm going to go here because I need to stay inside the square of the pawn. So we may end up in a draw. This is one of those opposite colored bishop draws. He can't defend this pawn, so I'm not like losing here. But I can't defend my dark squared pawns either. That was a mistake. He needs to stop this pawn. It's closer to queening than any of his pawns. Okay, so how can I do this? I can go here and harass his light. This pawn, he's got one pawn on the light square that I can harass over here.
Check.
And come up to a dark square. Maybe I should have held on to that, but I think he has to take it. Yeah, so then I can take here. Oh,
check.
no. Oh. He could have won by pushing the pawn. It's the trouble when you're playing an increment. You miss things like that. Yeah, so in the previous position here, if he had just pushed the pawn here, I can't stop it. It's past where I can stop it with my bishop. Okay, so let's just attack his pawn. So now his pawns are on dark squares, mine are on light squares. I'll offer a draw.
Draw offered.
And basically I can just go back and forth between these two guys. He can never, he can't force my king to move. And he can't attack both of these pawns at the same time, so I think there's no way to make progress. There's no Zugzwang because I have two squares I can stay on. If his king's not nearby, my king can go back and forth between these two squares. And depending on which pawn he's attacking, I just move my bishop. It's just the only square that attacks both pawns is F3, which he can't get to because it's covered by the G2.
Draw
pawn.
offered.
Okay, so now he agrees to a draw.
Game drawn.
Okay, well, that was an interesting game. I think he had that one chance to win, but I probably could have played better too. So we'll take a look at that at the postmortem. See you guys later. Bye.